I'm very excited for our next guest, all the way from Israel, but actually Germany, where you're based. Alon Sariel. A big
Hi,
welcome.
good morning. Good
you can
morning.
sit a bit closer for the mic, or I can just, yeah, there we go. Alon, before we get to what you're doing in South Africa and the concerts, I was blown away by your talent. But just for a background, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Beersheba. It's a city in the middle of the desert in Israel, in the Negev desert. And yeah, it's like the third biggest city in the country. And yeah, today it's famous because of its university and academic life. Ben Gurion, our first prime minister, actually used to send their people to settle the desert because you know, Israel is quite a small country, and many settlers came in, and that was the story of the 40s.
Now, I've watched some of your videos, and the first thing that came to my mind, I saw your hands, and I thought, you know, you must play electric guitar. You know, you can, like, you'll be better than Brian May. And it's so interesting on your website. You said that to your mother as a child. So what do you want to play? And you said electric guitar. So how did you end up with the mandolin and the lute?
Yeah, I get that comment a lot, actually, with the hands and
Yes,
Jimi
you can
Hendrix.
see that.
And well, I was young, and in the 90s, I wanted to play the electric guitar. I was 8 years old, and together with my mother, we went to the conservatory in Beersheba, and that's what I said. And they told me, boy, you're too young for that. Start with the mandolin, it's the same.
Yeah.
And we have a wonderful mandolin orchestra, you'll enjoy it. And it was really true, it was a fantastic group, and we represented the city also abroad, and it was great fun. And actually my first steps in music, in classical music and in general, I made through this orchestra.
But growing up, I think like the classical culture in Israel, it's also you learn Western music, but also the Eastern music. Is it still big? I mean, South Africa becomes smaller and smaller. The classical, you know, just like the market and everything. Was it still alive and well? And did you think you can make a career out of classical music?
I never actually thought about it. You know, it wasn't a part of deciding to be a musician. I didn't really have the choice. You know, I just had the feeling I had to do it. And it's true what you say about in Israel, this Eastern music. It belongs in the culture. It belongs to the area. So of course it's always present. And the classical market is, yeah, it can always be better. But yeah, we can't complain.
And there's a lot of people that still help classical artists. A lot of foundations that I've seen also that you thank to say because they were part of your life and because they still invest in musicians like you. Is that very important still? If those people are gone, it can die out?
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure. For instance, the America-Israel Cultural Foundation is a foundation that followed my career, accompanied me over many years. Actually, I only arrived in South Africa because of the support of Tararam, which is a cultural foundation between South Africa and Israel, and they bring artists from both countries and to support the exchange.
No, that's fantastic. I want to talk about your instruments, the difference between the mandolin, the lute, and what else you play, and then the concerts while you're here in South Africa. But we're going to chat about that after the ad break. Ons gesels verder met ons gas al die pad van Israel en is Alon Sariel en hy's 'n mandolienspeler en ook die lute en hy's ook 'n dirigent. That's quite interesting, Alon. We spoke about just your background where it all started, but while you're playing, you're also directing, and it's quite interesting sitting down and you've got your mandolin but you start the rest of the orchestra playing with you. You know, it's just that it came naturally. Is it difficult to do?
What I really like to do is to lead from the instrument. So like I will do here this weekend in a mandolin concerto, where you play the solo part and at the same time you lead the orchestra. I actually came to directing through an interesting way. I was part of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. It's an orchestra made by Arabs and Jews and led by Daniel Barenboim, the great pianist and conductor. And I was only playing there in one crazy piece, Variations for Orchestra by Arnold Schoenberg. And there I had a part. And in the rest of the program, I could sit in the rehearsals and in the concerts. I always had the scores with me, and I learned quite a lot. We had 3 tours all over Europe. So at that point, I became really interested in conducting, and I went on studying conducting. And of course, it's a whole different approach. And I think also, it's difficult for me to say about myself, but I think it also influenced my instrumental interpretations. And I'm sure my instrumental work also influenced my conducting work.
If one quickly look at the instruments you play, the mandolin and then also the lute, how does it differ from one another? Does it differ in the way you play it, the approach, the style? What's the difference?
Yeah. The main difference is actually the function. You know, with the lute, when you accompany, we call it basso continuo. It's something that you typically play on the lute, on the harpsichord, and the organ. You're much more in the background, and you're supporting. And the mandolin is always up front. It's a soprano instrument, and it's more like in the center of things. And I find it very interesting. I often have, either small affairs with instruments, and then I leave them away. If it's a viola da gamba or Renaissance cittern, or the vihuela da mano, which is a sort of a Renaissance guitar. And sometimes you fall in love with the instrument, and it becomes really part of your instrumentarium, like what happened with me with the double harp. I really, in the last year, I play a lot of harp. And sometimes it's just, you try out and you see, it's nice. I don't have enough time. Bye-bye.
It's just a difficult thing to travel with.
Yeah,
and it explains to me now, because the videos I've seen, exactly, I will ask you what flute this lady is using, and with the lute you were in the background, supporting. And it's a massive instrument. You get smaller ones. The show at Brooklyn Theatre, you're doing, and I hope I'm going to pronounce this correctly, you're going to help me, Hummel. Yes, Hummel.
Johann Nepomuk Hummel.
Hummel. So Hummel, it's amazing. He grew up prodigy with Mozart, and he was actually teaching Chopin. Why his work?
Well, as you say, it's a very, very special composer. We're going to have a very diverse program. The concerti we play by him couldn't be different. We have a piano concerto, a trumpet concerto, and a mandolin concerto. And when you sit there and listen to it, you just don't believe it's the same composer.
Sure.
And the piano concerto especially, it fills a very important gap in the piano literature. It's exactly between the last concerto of Beethoven you mentioned and the first of Chopin. And it's so important for the piano repertoire. It really plays an important role. And I'm really, really happy about these concerts. The orchestra, the Gauteng Philharmonic, is a very dynamic and young group that I found in front of me. It was great to work with them. Last night we had the second rehearsal, and we're looking forward to the concerts. Friday at 7 o'clock and on Sunday at 3 o'clock. And you can actually book tickets through the website of the theater.
Yeah, so it's a Brooklyn Theatre.
Brooklyn Theatre.
Yeah. And then I thought, I just wanted to tell you in the ad break about our, guy who just won the big award last week for the best classical production at the Fiestas, Erik Dippenaar. And then you said, but you're performing with him.
Yeah.
And I thought, you must just get to this guy because you're doing the same thing. And it's like with the classics and antique instruments. And that's in Cape Town. Where and when is it in Cape Town? And what are you doing with Erik?
That's in Wednesday. So next week in the St. Andrew's Church, we're going to have a concert with Erik and his Camerata Tinta Barocca.
Yes. That
Looking
is
forward to that.
You're going to love him, and I think you must take him to Israel and Germany. I've got so much more to ask, but we're out of time. But you're going to perform for us at the end of the show. I can't wait for it. Thank you for sharing your talent with us in South Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alon.
Thank you very much.